Dear participants, thank you for joining us for the exclusive webinar on the launch of Invesco India Focused 20 Equity Fund. We have with us Sandeep Sharma, who heads the retail business for Invesco, and Nitin Goshar, who is the fund manager for the fund. A warm welcome to Mr. Sandeep. Maybe you can take off from here.
Yeah, thanks, Shyam. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. So at the outset, we would like to thank you for taking out time and joining us for this webinar for the launch of our Focus 20 Equity Fund. Hope you and your families are doing well and you are taking all necessary precautions in this COVID times. Take care, stay safe. Before we get on to the discussions on the product itself, we would like to highlight a couple of points. One, so we are a process-oriented fund house, and we have a very well-defined investment process in place. The heart of the process is the stock selection framework, wherein we track 300 stocks, and we funnel those 300 stocks. Although we start with 300, but we funnel it down to 130, 140 investable ideas. So there is a stock categorization framework where we broadly categorize these into broadly 5 buckets. These 5 buckets you can actually divide it into broad 2 buckets, which is one is growth and the other is value. So the analysts work on this, and the respective analysts of the sector will look into the details of the stock in terms of financials, in terms of you can say plant visits, company visits, as well as they meet the senior management also, and then they do the research work, and after that we filter it down to 130, 140 investable ideas. As we speak, we have 138 names which are actually categorized, which means that these are stocks which are available to all fund managers managing various strategies across our equity space. So what this process has added is that this process we have been following for 12 years since inception, where we came into existence in 2008, and we have been following this process for last 12 years. And this process has actually led us to you can say long-term consistent outcomes across strategies. So if you look at whether you look at our you can say large and mid category, whether you look at our contra fund, whether you look at our mid cap space and all, so all the or a tax plan, so all categories they have good decent performance over a longer period of time. Whether you look at 3, 5, 7, 10 years, most of the strategies have more than 10 years of track record, and they have delivered consistent outcomes over a longer period of time. So if you look at the equity space, we have a presence across, you can say, categories. There are various categories like large cap, large and mid, contra, mid cap, small cap. So we have presence across categories. Focus is the only category where we have been actually missing, and we have been contemplating to get into this space for a long period of time, and we were looking for an opportune time to launch the fund. So we are pleased to share that we are launching the fund. The NFO opens from September 9th. It closes on 23rd September. Those are the dates, launch dates. As far as you can say, coming to the fund itself, so if you see what we normally say, I hope everyone can see the presentation. So I'm on slide 2 of the presentation. So what we normally say is that outcomes change once you actually are focused. So so what we have seen is, and what we have actually experienced across whether it is studies, whether it is your sports or business or even social work, if you are actually committed, you are focused on your goal for that, then anything is actually possible. It will lead to desired outcomes. So what we are highlighting is that if you are focused, and if you actually define your goals, you are focused on that, and you plan it out, then it will surely lead to desired outcomes, be it any sphere of life, whether it is studies, whether it is sports or business or social work. So same is the case with you can say equity investing also. If you're focused, and if you focus on stock selection, and that is where we were actually highlighting our stock selection framework or process, which we have built in and which we have been following for 12 years. If you're focused and you have a good stock selection capabilities as well as process, then that helps you to avoid mediocre businesses. So that is what we are actually highlighting, that stock selection is the key. And we have a well-defined process in terms of investment process, where we have a stock categorization framework, which helps us to actually identify or avoid accidents. So a couple of points which we want to highlight. The first and foremost point is in terms of, if you see from this slide, there is data for last 7 years. If you look at calendar year wise, there is polarization in the market. So if you see the top 10, 15, 20 stocks actually deliver bulk of the returns from the index side. So whether it is a broader index, which is Nifty 50, or whether you look at a you can say the benchmark, which is a more broader index like BSE 500. So if you look at calendar year wise, which is depicted from this slide, that the top 10 stocks have accounted for a meaningful actually share of the overall returns which have been delivered by the respective indices. So what is coming out of this slide is that basically there is polarization, and of course stock selection actually then plays a key role as far as delivery of performance is concerned. So which we can clearly see that if Nifty 50 has delivered in calendar year 2012, if the Nifty delivered close to 30% returns, out of that 30% returns, 73%, which is close to 21.6%, actually came in from top 10 stocks. Same is the case with BSE 500 also. If you see, 33% of the returns actually were delivered by BSE 500 in that year. But yes, out of that 44%, which means clearly close to 14.5% return has actually come in from the top 10 stocks. Same is the case in calendar year 13 as well, wherein by 147%, what we mean is that if Nifty has delivered 7.5% return, in the same year, the top 10 stocks have actually delivered more than the Nifty, so which is 11. They have accounted for 11.1% kind of return. BSE 500, if you see, it has delivered 5% return, whereas the top 10 stocks in BSE 500 actually delivered 8%, so on and so forth. So the point which we are making out of here is that there is polarization. There are stocks which have done well, and there will be stocks which would be performing near to the index, or they would have underperformed the index as well. So it is, stock selection is very important when you're actually managing this thing. So second point which we want to highlight is, and which we always, you would have heard, you can say multiple, you would have been on multiple webinars everywhere. We always talk about asset allocation. We always talk about diversification. So diversification is important. Asset allocation is very important. And all of us would have experienced that over last 1 year or so. If you see, anyone who would have had proper asset allocation would have allocated to gold as well. And last 1 year, all of us know how gold has performed. So it is very important to have asset allocation. It is very important to have diversification of your portfolio across asset classes. So whether it is equity, whether it is fixed income, whether it is bonds, whether you are investing to gold, so you need to diversify. You need to have a right asset allocation mix as per your risk profiling. But yes, beyond that, within an asset class, if you are actually looking within an asset class, say for example, in this case, equity. So if you look at within the asset class, beyond a particular period of, you can say if you are holding 30 stocks, whether 50 stocks, 100 or 200. So the chart which is actually representing BSE Sensex, which has 30 stocks, Nifty 50, which has 50 stocks, BSE 100, which is you can say 100 stocks, or if you look at BSE 200, which is 200 stocks, the standard deviation is not varying much. So it is around 18. Obviously, there is some decline in terms of standard deviation as the number of stocks is going up, but there is not meaningful, you can say, risk aversion which is happening. So beyond a point, what we are actually trying to call out from this, or make a point from this present, you can say this slide, is that diversification is good, but yes, over diversification beyond the point will not lead to actually commensurate reduction in your risk. So that is clearly coming out from this slide. This data is for 5 years. We have done that exercise on 10 years as well, and the results are the same. So what we are trying to highlight is that diversification is important, but yes, over diversification also doesn't actually help in terms of reduction of risk. Third and important point which we are trying to highlight is that even if you get the sector right, so by that what we mean is that if you are actually able to identify a sector which will do well, maybe over a period of 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, still even if you are able to do that part correctly, as you can see from the slide, whether it is auto, IT, or banking, so all these three sectors are actually more or less backbones of the economy, and this is 10-year data. So at a sector level, sector would have delivered decent returns, but then within the sector also there is huge divergence. So if you see within the sector, the top performer has delivered somewhere anywhere between 20, 25, 30% kind of returns, whereas the bottom performer has actually delivered negative returns. So within the same sector, you have a stock which has actually delivered a decent, you can say, returns, whereas you have within that sector you have stocks which have delivered negative returns over 10 years. So it again the key point which we are actually trying to make is that stock selection actually is of utmost importance. So that is what we are trying to highlight. So one, polarization. Two, in terms of sector. So it's important that you have stock selection right. And in terms of diversification is important. But yes, within our asset class, over diversification also will not lead to commensurate reduction in risk. So these are the key points which we are trying to highlight through these couple of slides. Now coming to the product itself. So we are launching this fund, Invesco India Focus 20 Equity Fund. The NFO is opening from 9th of September. It is closing on 23rd of September. It's a multi-cap strategy, and as the name suggests, so although SEBI allows you to actually in a focus space, you can actually go to 30 stocks, but as we have, you can see, we have hard coded that we will have focus 20. By focus 20, what we mean is that there will be maximum 20 stocks in the portfolio. So to talk about, you can say specifically about the fund and what we are actually, how we are going to, what will be the portfolio characteristics, how will we construct the portfolio. We have Nitin Gosar, who is a fund manager with us. So Nitin has more than 15 years of experience, and he has been with the team for close to 10 years. So now I will hand it over to Nitin to take us through the portfolio construction as well as you can say the construct of the portfolio. So over to you, Nitin.
Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you very much. Hi team. Hi all investors out there. I hope you all are keeping safe. So jumping from where Sandeep left, portfolio construction becomes a very key part when we talk about Focus 20, because there is a lot of concentration of stocks which is going to play. So what we are calling it out, there are a couple of pointers out there which will define how we want to work around with this strategy, the approach we'll have on research part, and what kind of risk mitigation strategies we have in place. So the first point is definitely we are going to limit ourselves to 20 stocks portfolio. Internally, we know this 20 stocks will be in the range of on an average around 18 to 20 numbers on a longer term period basis. It might drop down to 15, but it would be more interim and not something that we want to do it that way. So on an average, it will be like 18 to 20 stocks portfolio on a longer tenure basis. Second key point out here is it's a multi-cap strategy, and typically multi-cap strategy gives you a lot of freedom in terms of choosing which market cap to select. When I say multi-cap, it does have a lot of levers when it comes to large cap, when it comes to small cap or mid cap. Now you see over a period of last 5 years what has happened. Having fixated to one particular cap strategy would have not helped you. If you see era between 2015 to 2017, we had mid and small which were delivering. If you see a period between 18 to 20, you see large cap delivering the maximum part of returns. So what we have quoted here is it's a multi-cap product, means that we'll be investing in different multi-caps or different caps. However, out here the definition has to be very much precise because we don't want to keep it open-ended. Being focused, there is always a risk of being carried away by what is happening in the market. One may end up having excessive investment in mid and small if he gets carried away with the return. So as a risk mitigation process, we have called it out that at any given point of time, large cap will be 50 to 70% of our portfolio. Mid and small cap will be somewhere between 30 to 50% of our portfolio, and small cap would be 0 to 20. Now, why we are calling it 0 to 20 is clearly coming from the fact that there could be periods where we'll have zero allocation to small cap because we may not be convinced with the valuation or the way market is behaving. So we are keeping that lever open, but that lever is to only ensure that we have a right risk mitigation policy in place. Uh, uh, if I were to touch upon a bit of what research team does out here, if when we're to look at the universe that we trace out, we almost scan around 300 numbers, 300 stocks, out of which almost 140 on an average have been got categorized recently. The number fluctuates anywhere between 130 to 145, depending upon what kind of ideas do come up as an investable pool. If I were to dissect this whole categorized list into large cap, mid cap, and small cap, today what I see is around 40% of our coverage is falling part of large cap, 30 is falling part of mid cap, and 30 is falling part of small cap. So one is the intent, and second is the backing of that intent. Today we want to risk mitigate, but we also have a backend which will support us in terms of risk mitigation. Just touching upon the second point further, the strategy will be investment style agnostic. If you see, typically there is a way of investment that is growth investment or growth bias, or there is a value mandate or value bias strategy. Internally, the categorization framework that we follow, it gives us a lot of conviction in terms of bucketing up our investment pool into two main segments. One is growth segment and second is value segment. If again I were to go back on my research pool and were to qualify, growth bucket today would be around 65% of our investment ideas, and value bucket will be somewhere around 30% of our investment ideas. Now, since we have a good understanding of what happens in the value segment, we have one flagship product which has delivered over last 7-8 years, if one were to see as a history. So we have delivered rightfully on value mandate, and we want to marry this value mandate along with growth mandate that we will follow in this Focus 20. Now, why to have a value mandate along with growth out here? By having a value mandate, it gives us an opportunity to also invest into stocks which can have an earnings kicker or slightly higher earnings upside over a period of 2 to 3 year investment horizon. And also it gives us a chance to get the re-rating potential if that particular company were to offer. So by marrying the two proposition, we are trying to only enhance the overall returns. Plus, in certain in times of uncertainty, the value mandate helps because it tries to be very fixated upon what you want to buy and what price you want to pay for that particular company. So in tough times, it helps us to anchor around what kind of value we want to pay. In good times, it helps us with the re-rating potential. The third point would be the alpha generation. Now, since it's a concentrated portfolio, the strategy allows us to be very clear in terms of investment calls that we want to take. Typically, focus requires a lot of elimination. Focus is not just being concentrated on 20. Focus is all about eliminating those 80 to reach down to 20. And by eliminating 80, you develop a very high conviction that you develop on those remaining 20 as a bucket to start with. So with this elimination, we are ensuring that we are trying to eliminate the laggards or potential candidates for accidents. And by remaining fixated on those 20s, we are ensuring that we get maximum or the best out of those 20s, which can help us to deliver outperformance over a period of time. Last broader points which I want to touch upon would be entry-exit strategy. Typically, since we are marrying the strategy with value, we also have growth, and growth typically requires a certain period of time to play out, as well as value also requires a certain period of time to get it implemented. So anywhere the horizon should be around 2 to 3 years if we are trying to invest in a company. and so would be the horizon for the investor who is looking to invest in this kind of funds, because that allows a proper ripening period, or it gives the due credit to the investment process to identify ideas and benefit out of them as a process. Further to it, we as an house have been always quite clear about the convictions. If we were to pick up any of the strategies that we are running today, you will find largely we run an overweight basket. We don't want to have any kind of investment into names which is equal weight or underweight. By doing this, we are forcing ourselves to be restricting ourselves to stocks where we develop high conviction. If we have high conviction, definitely it warrants a higher weightages, and that is how overweight position gets developed. Now, this product is only extension of the philosophy that we have been following for past more than a decade. So it's nothing new. It's only an extension as a process that we are doing. So we are not worried. It's more of an extension. Further to it, it's a bottom-up selection process. The strategy will follow. So we will not be very much fixated about the sector weightages or sector underweight or overweight. As the process is more bottom-up, the investment pool will help us identify, or the investment team, research team will help us identify the key stocks that we want to build over a period of time. As a fund manager, our role becomes much more easier if we have a very defined categorization process, because you get a chance to select the companies you want to be invested in as the economic cycle moves. And as a process, your own role gets only defined or limited to the weightages that you want to allocate to those particular ideas. Having said that, weightage allocation will be a very key role, will play a very key role in this particular Focus 20 strategy. Our benchmark today for this Focus 20 is going to be BSE 500. Now, if I were to divide 100 by 20, which is 100 rupee getting invested in Focus 20, we'll be investing roughly 5% weight on each of the companies that we were to select with. But the benchmark index will not have an equal weight on all those names. BSE 500 will have higher weights on certain companies and lower weight on certain companies. We have to risk mitigate this overall differences of weight allocation. Internal framework is quite clear. Anything which is underrepresented in BSE 500, that is the weight being less than 1%, we will go with an overweight idea, or if we are convinced with the idea, we'll go with overweight position to the extent of 3%. So let's say if something is represented as a 0.5% is being in BSE 500, at the outer set we'll be only investing around 3.5% if we're completely convinced. Same way, if one were to say if the idea is well represented in the BSE 500 indices, for namesake or for example's sake, let's say it's 3% as a representation. As a fund house, we will build up around 3 to 5% as an overweight position on those particular idea if we are convinced. So the overall representation for that particular idea will be around 6 to 8% in our funds. Why we want to do this is because in a way this helps us to cap our urges. We as a human being do get carried away by what happens as recent as yesterday. Getting this process in place, getting this risk aversion in place, it only ensures that we don't do any kind of misadventures which we repent at a later date. So putting all these key filter criterias into place, even for stock selection and even for risk mitigation, we believe the proposition is very apt in terms of ensuring that Focus 20 doesn't throw up any kind of excessive risk to our investors. As we move on, since it's a multi-cap, since it's a sector agnostic, we'll get chance to invest in top companies for whichever sector we want to select, whichever market cap we want to select. In the whole process, if one were to stretch it over a period of 5 to 8 year cycle of the stock market, the fund should give you a more stable and secular return as one goes along. I think I've touched upon many clear points how we want to run over this fund. Our key thought process, how we want to identify ideas, how we want to put weightages around them, how we want to risk mitigate the key risk which the concentrated portfolio will throw up. Now we can throw Sandeep. I'll pass it down to you.
I will take it. Yeah, I will take it forward. Thanks, Nitin. Just to maybe summarize and maybe highlight a couple of more points. One, as Nitin was highlighting, so broadly it will be a bottom-up strategy, which means that the stocks will be coming from our stock selection framework, which we have, and it will be 18 to 20 stock portfolio, which means that maybe 18 to 20 high conviction ideas, each stock having decent allocation in the portfolio. In terms of capitalization, it will be a multi-cap portfolio. And as Nitin was highlighting, we didn't want to leave it open-ended in that sense, and we have broadly defined the within capitalization. We have defined what exactly how much we are expecting to be in large caps, mid caps, and small caps. So large cap would be anywhere between 50 to 70%. Mid caps would be anywhere between 30 to 50%, and we'll have a small cap exposure of 0 to 20%. So in terms of style, so it will be a blend with a growth bias. And what we feel is growth. So it will be a blend of growth and value. So around about 60 to 75% of the portfolio would be into growth, and remaining, you can say, 25 to 35% would be into value. And what we believe is because we have that stock categorization framework where we bucket the stocks into growth and value space, which we have been running for last process we have been running for last 12 years. And two, we have a strategy which is a value conscious strategy by the name of Contra, which has a 13 years of track record, a very good consistent long-term track record, which is there across time frames. If you look at that scheme, or that fund, over 3, 5, 7, 10 years, it has delivered, you can say, very good outcomes. So we believe that we have a very good hold on the value space, and we bring that, you can say, part to the table. So it will be a blend of growth and value, but yes, it will be with a growth bias. So coming to, as Nitin was highlighting, so coming to this thing, so we track 300 stocks. How we are eliminating risk is also, if you see, although we are tracking 300, and which I covered in the earlier part of the presentation also, only 138 stocks get categorized. So which means there are close to 160 stocks that are getting weeded out in the process. So basically, you are trying to eliminate or trying to minimize the risk. So you cannot completely avoid the risk, but yes, at least, and there can be accidents. We are not saying that there can't be accidents, but you're trying to avoid the accidents. And although your starting point is 300 stocks, but you are funneling it down to 138 investable names, which you feel, or which your team feels that these are the names which can be invested into. Lastly, in terms of, we have been sharing through this presentation that we have robust processes in place. In terms of team, we have a 12-member team on the equity space, and they collectively have more than 190 years of experience. Our in-house coverage actually covers close to 300 companies, which covers roughly 94% of the market cap. And we have outcomes in the sense that 98% of our equity assets have delivered consistent outcomes over a longer period of time. So be it 7 years, 10 years, and since inception, 98% of our equity assets have delivered consistent outcomes, beating the benchmark. Lastly, this fund will be managed by Tahir Badshah. So Tahir is the CIO equity with us. He has over 26 years of experience. And he has been with us for last 3.5 years. Before that, he was with Motilal Oswal as the head of equities. And he has also worked with firms like Kotak, ICICI Prudential, and Alliance. One, obviously, he carries rich experience with himself. Two, he is known to manage compact strategies. Within our scheme of things also, if you see, most of our schemes are compact strategies, in the sense that we don't run portfolios in the range of, say, 60, 70, 80 stocks. Most of our portfolios are anywhere between 20 to 45 stock portfolios. In fact, the highest is Contra, where we have 47 stocks currently, and we are managing close to 5,200 crores in that scheme. So that actually dovetails from one of the reason why we actually run compact strategies, as Nitin was also highlighting, is because of our investment philosophy of having active weights across portfolios. So if you look at any of our portfolios, whether it is large cap, large and mid, multi-cap, mid-cap. So any portfolio you actually have you take any of our portfolios. Across portfolios, we run overweight positions. So if by that what we mean is that if the stock weight in the index is say 5%, so if we want to own that stock, so we will be having more than 5% weightage in our portfolio. So we will be having maybe 6, 7, 8%. We'll be owning 6, 7, 8, 9%. We will not own underweight position in any of the stocks. So it is not that since the stock is having 5% in the index, and if it does well, what will happen? So let's keep 3%. So we don't run underweight positions. If we have conviction, we will go and have overweight position. So that brings conviction to the table in terms of management side also, that any position which we have will be an active weight, and that also in a sense leads to, you can say, across strategies we managing anywhere between 20 to 45, 47 stocks in our portfolios. So with this thing, maybe I'll stop here and we'll throw the floor open for Q&A. So yeah, over to you, Shyam. We can open the floor for Q&A. Thanks for the patient hearing. I think now we can open for Q&A. So over to you, Shyam.
Thanks, Nitin and Sandeep, for the information. We have lots of questions that have come over the period of the webinar. We'll just take them one by one. The first question is from Ankit Jam. He's asking, is this an open-ended fund? Can we invest post the NFO?
Yeah, so I'll take that question. It's an open-ended fund. So the NFO period, typically what happens is for a open-ended fund also, you launch the fund. There is a 15-day launch period. So from starting from September 9 to 23rd is the launch period. After that, there will be allotment in 5 working days. So then it'll reopen. I think we have not decided on the final reopening date, but yes, it will reopen in the month of October, early first week of October. And then people can invest at on the NAV on that day. So yes, it will be open-ended fund, and you can invest once it opens in the first week of October.
The next one is from Mr. Rohit. He's asking, what is the estimated expense ratio of the fund? And also, does the fund plan to hedge its position through derivatives?
So I will take the first part of the question. I'll leave the second part of the question for Nitin to answer. The expense ratio is derived from the SEBI formula. So there is a grid which has been defined by SEBI, which is followed by all our equity funds, and in fact all the equity funds which are there in the market. So expense ratio would be the function of that grid. So there is a defined grid from SEBI. How much you can charge based on the assets which are there. So for the first 500 crores, you can charge 2.25. For the next 250 crores, you can charge 2%. For the next till the point the fund reaches 2,000 crores of assets, you can charge 1.75. From 2,000 to 5,000, you can charge 1.6, and so on and so forth. So there is a SEBI defined grid, and we follow that grid across our strategies. And so is the case with all mutual funds as well. So I'll leave the second part of the question for Nitin. Nitin, in terms of derivatives, I know that we might not be using it, but yes, you can delve more on that.
Yeah. So yeah, as a process, we don't choose to use derivative as an instrument. If you look back to our categorization framework, it clearly identifies which are the stock we want to invest and which are the ones we don't want to invest. So if there is any point of time we believe there is ideas that we don't want to invest in, probably we'll choose to exit rather than use a complex instrument to give some kind of solace to our positions. So the idea is not to use those instrument. Idea is to be fixated on clear, plain vanilla cash positions that is deploying into direct equity. And idea is to also stick around with the categorization framework, which can give more process-driven outcomes.
Next question is from Mr. Uday Naik. He's asking what turnover ratio is expected for this fund. Is it going to be high or low?
So the question is good. In fact, see what will happen is if you are having only 20 stocks to invest in, there could be period there you don't want to churn because you have got the portfolio right. But there could be a period where your investment framework says that, hey, look, the investment that we did in XYZ company doesn't suffice the need because we started it as a leader and no more it shows the character of leader. We want to exit it. And for example's sake, if that position happens to be 9%, exiting 9% to zero and then again taking 0 to 9% in some other stocks will result into higher churn. So the idea is not to do a higher churn, but being a concentrated portfolio, if we are exiting something or if we are entering something, it leads to movement and that will result into higher churn ratio in entry. Otherwise, we want to invest for a 2 to 3 year horizon. We don't want to tinker around.
Yeah, so just to add on that, so with a 2 to 3 year view, if you're looking at a longer term, so the churn ratio would be somewhere around 30%. So that will be the, so it's a ballpark. But having said that, as Nitin is highlighting, so there can be periods if you have a large position and you are, because there is a not a investment case in that position any further, and you're exiting and you're entering into a new position. At that point of time, the churn can be slightly higher.
The next question is, wouldn't a diversified fund be more safer in the current market scenario because the risk gets spread out rather than being in a focused 20 stock fund?
So there are two parts to it. Diversified portfolio. When you say diversified portfolio, we are talking about the category definition. Definitely, diversified portfolio always help. But what goes into the category definition also at times get misunderstood is excessive diversification into number of stocks. During tough times, you have a tail of companies which are not actually keen to respond in that economic environment. So you develop a lot of laggard tail in your portfolio, and during good time, it's the leader who take precedence, and then the laggard portfolio starts delivering. So having an excessively long tail at times doesn't help, and that's why over diversification at times doesn't serve the purpose. But diversified as a definition is the right metrics to look at. Excessive diversification is where the problem arises, where we get into too much of long tail which doesn't contribute.
Yeah, so which was highlighted by us in the initial part of the presentation also, which was on slide 6, which is there currently, that it is, you can say, a few stocks which actually account for bulk of the returns, whether it is 10, 15, 20 stocks. So there is polarization, and which has been seen for last, you can see the data, it is there for last 7-8 years, which we highlighted. Yes, diversification is important. Diversification, asset allocation is key. It is important. But yes, over diversification into stocks, which we showcased in the risk framework also, that doesn't necessarily lead to commensurate reduction in risk as well. So whether you are owning 30 stocks, 50, 100, 200, yes, the volatility is coming down, but is it coming down meaningfully? The answer is no.
The next question is, what is the projection of returns in the next 7-8 years? It's tough to
I'm not sure
predict the
whether
future, but
Yeah. And, see, no one can predict the returns. Obviously, you can't predict as far as risk return framework is concerned. So I don't think so anyone can predict what kind of returns you can expect. But yes, on the risk return framework, if you see where the fund is pegged, so if you see, it is somewhere between a multi-cap and a mid-cap in terms of risk and reward. So it is, in terms of risk, it is higher than a multi-cap fund because it's also a multi-cap strategy, but it's a concentrated portfolio, 18-20 stock portfolio. So in terms of risk, it is slightly higher than multi-cap, but since it's a multi-cap strategy, it is slightly lower than a mid-cap fund. So that is where it is actually positioned, and you expect to deliver alpha, which is commensurate to the risk which you're taking.
next question is from Mr. Raj Gopalan. He is asking, does this fund will have regular dividend payouts?
So it is broadly,
Sandeep, you want
you
to
want
touch
to,
on this?
yeah. So see, dividends are paid out of profits. So obviously, you will construct the portfolio. The portfolio will play out over a period of time, and as and when you have profits and you have this thing within the scheme, then and you need to book profits also. So as and when it happens, obviously you will pay dividend at that point of time. So if you look at our other schemes, we have been as and when there have been you can say profits within the scheme, we have been paying dividends, but there is no set frequency as far as payout of dividend is concerned. That is more a function of the scheme having profits, and you have booked those profits. Initially, it takes time to build that, because you need to build that in a new scheme, because you will be building a portfolio over a period of time that will play out. So for the initial phase, obviously, unless and until there is a huge upside in the market, initial phase you will not see dividends. But yes, over a longer period of time, if you look at our other schemes, whether it is tax plan, whether it is contra, or whether it is a growth fund, we have been paying regular dividends in that. Nitin, you want to add anything on that?
No, I think Sandeep, you touched upon it perfectly.
Yeah.
Being an aggressive portfolio,
Right.
a 20 stock portfolio aggressive strategy, I think the genesis of the strategy is to make returns. I think dividend it out may not be the right fashion, but yeah, if profits are earned, that can be well distributed within the investors community.
Yeah.
We have one similar question from Umesh Patel about the funds. He's asking, how would you compare your other existing funds, like your hybrid plans and fixed income plans, to this new fund?
No, so the new fund is on the equity space. Hybrid or fixed income. Fixed income funds obviously actually fall on the debt side. This is a equity fund. So both the asset classes are different. Equity is a separate asset class. Fixed income or debt is a separate asset class. On the fixed income side, what you're looking for is safety, liquidity, and then returns. On the equity space, what you're looking for is in a way, what you're doing is you are actually becoming a part owner of that business. So when you are actually investing into equity, you become a part owner of that business, and you carry the risk of ups and downs in that business. So these are two different asset classes. As far as the other this thing, which is hybrid again is a mix of equity and debt. So in a hybrid scheme, there are various categories of hybrid schemes. So like we have a equity bond fund, so there you have 65% exposure to equity, but then there is a fair amount of exposure on the fixed income side, which brings stability to that fixed income. Obviously, as we highlighted, the idea is to have safety, liquidity, and return. So again, these are two separate asset classes. So you can't compare equity fund with a hybrid fund or a fixed income fund, because they are very different, you can say, asset classes in that sense.
So I've got a couple of questions asking you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Nitin, you want to add?
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, the slide which Sandeep has put up on screen, if you see, within the equity schemes that are present as a product offering from Invesco side, the product differentiation here is that this is a 20 stock portfolio, whereas there could be slight adjacencies. If one were to see the multi-cap strategy is slightly adjacent to several other products which are available, but those are more spreaded products with 40 kind of names, and this is more concentrated with 20 kind of names.
We have a couple of people have asked about the 20 stocks that you're going to invest in. How are you going to declare them? Are you going to publicize on your website, or by when can you share the details of the allocations?
Yeah. So the fact sheet is published on a monthly basis. Obviously, during the NFO period, you will not actually publish the because you construct the portfolio once the you can say the NFO closes and all. So typically, what happens is that you will close, and the you can say allotment will happen somewhere late in you can say September. So November fact sheet is when you can actually start seeing the portfolio. So all portfolios, for that matter, all equity as well as fixed income portfolios are actually put up on the website also, because there is a SEBI regulation that you have to put it up on the website. Plus, we do come out with fact sheet as well, which captures portfolios, which will capture not only focus fund, but it captures portfolios of all equity, hybrid, as well as fixed income products which we run. So particularly for this fund, I think it will come in the fact sheet in the month of November. Just to add on that, just to take the
we'll take
this
one
thing forward.
last question that has just come.
One sec, Shyam. So just to add on that, so as per SEBI, you have 3 months to actually build the portfolio. So once the you can say our NFO closes on 23rd September, you have 3 months to actually build the portfolio. So day one, you will not have 20 stocks in the maybe portfolio. The portfolio may be built over next 2 to 3 months. So that leeway is with the fund manager. That leeway is with Tahir Badshah, who is the fund manager for this fund. So he will decide whether he will invest the entire amount at one go, or he will actually stagger it over next 2 to 3 months, depending on the market opportunities. But yes, the portfolio,
We'll
whatever
take one
will be the
last-
portfolio, portfolio will be available. Portfolio will be whatever portfolio is there. That will be available in the month of November fact sheet. That will get captured. But yes, there also it is not that you will have the entire portfolio fully invested at that point of time. But across our equity schemes, our philosophy is that we are fully invested. We don't take cash calls. So we are fully invested at all points of time, which means that 95 to 100% of the portfolio is invested. So typically the maximum cash we have in a portfolio is 5%, barring one fund, which is dynamic equity, which is an asset allocation fund, and by the nature of the fund, we do take cash calls in that. Yeah, over to you, Shyam.
One last question we'll take. One question that has repeatedly come is on the slide number 18, which is currently being shown. Can you please elaborate more on it, especially what are the y-axis and the x-axis, the risk and the potential return? How do you derive that?
So maybe I'll kickstart, and maybe Nitin, you want to add later on anything, you can add that. So broadly, it is
Sure.
on the x-axis it is risk. As you can see that if you're going forward right from large cap, which is the in terms of this is risk versus return for a equity. It's just a representation in that sense. So this is fair representation that how do equity funds stack up, and where do they stack up in the risk reward framework. So your you can say x-axis is actually depicting risk, and your y-axis is actually sorry, depicting return potential. So if you see right from large cap fund, which is the starting point, to on the other side we have sector thematic funds like we have infrastructure, PSU, financial services. So in terms of risk, the risk in large cap would be lower as compared to a large and mid cap, because there is a mid cap component in that, which will again have. So then we have three multi-cap strategies in a way. That tax plan is also multi-cap. Then we have contra as well as multi-cap portfolio. So all these actually will carry more risk than large cap or a large and mid category, because in large and mid category the mid cap portion is actually restricted to 35%, whereas in a multi-cap strategy there so you can actually go to you can take a higher actually exposure to mid caps. So that is why they are actually in terms of risk, they are higher as compared to large and mid and large cap categories. We discussed on focused equity fund. It's also a multi-cap strategy, but since you have a concentrated strategy, it is actually in terms of risk, it is higher than a multi-cap portfolio, which has higher number of stocks, which is 40-45 stocks are there. Then you go a step further, which is mid-cap fund. Mid-cap by definition will invest into mid-caps, and since you are investing into mid-caps, the mid-caps are actually on the risk framework, they are actually higher as compared to a multi-cap or a large and mid and or a large cap fund. And then small cap is even higher in terms of risk. And then last is your sector, because you are taking a call in particular sector or theme. So you are taking a higher risk, and if that sector does well, your portfolio will do well. Whereas your risk becomes diversified in case of a large and mid or in case of a multi-cap strategy. So that is how the risk is. And since you are taking a higher risk, you expect a higher alpha generation or higher return for taking that additional risk. So that is what is depicted here, that large cap you're taking a lower risk, the return expectation or the alpha generation would be lower as compared to large and mid. Large and mid, you are taking a slightly higher exposure into mid cap, which is not there in large cap fund. So since you are actually taking a higher exposure to a slightly higher risk, your return expectation or your alpha generation should be higher than a large cap fund, which should be in a multi cap fund. It should be higher than large and mid and large cap. It should be higher in mid cap as compared to the other categories. Small cap should deliver actually higher returns as compared to you can say, because you're taking a higher commensurate risk with each step. So that is what is being depicted here. Nitin, you want to add anything on it?
Yep, Sandeep, you summed it up. Just one point, in mid cap and small cap, there is still a process of identifying new ideas or discovering new ideas, and that is where the evolution journey plays out. That is where the chance of higher ability to make higher returns or chance of making higher returns plays out. While in large cap, now the SEBI definition is the first top 100 market cap companies are large cap, and they're well discovered. There is nothing more that one can identify that a company is doing something new and you don't know. So the discovery process keeps going up the ladder, and as the discovery process keeps going up the ladder, the chances of making more money do come into play. But if the discovery process also brings up some kind of accidents, and this typically happens with mid cap or small cap where the expectations are high and company probably falters on it, and that's why it's higher on the risk parameters also. So that's the how the scale has been designed. It's not much to do with the numerical number, how the different themes play out. It's more to do with the way businesses behave or with the way the discovery process behaves.
Right.
I think we have come to our end of our webinar. We'd like to thank Sandeep and Nathan for the wonderful information that we have got. And thank you all.
Thank you for patient hearing, and thanks once again for logging in for this webinar for the launch of our product. Thank you once again. Take care and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Shyam.